Good afternoon. My name is Kina, and I'll be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the Noble Hosted Solutions conference call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. If you should need assistance during the call, please press *0, and an operator will come back online to assist you. Thank you. Mr. Walder, you may begin your conference.
Thank you. Thank you for attending our webinar today on Get More from Your Cloud-Based Contact Center with Enterprise Hosted Solutions. Today we have two presenters. I'm Carl Walder. I'm VP of Solutions for North America. I'm responsible for the Noble Contact Center business consulting practice, which optimizes call centers, contact strategies, as well as we also develop contact center business processes and solution design. I'm joined by Reddy Anna Peretti. He's our VP of International Business Development for Noble Systems. And Reddy, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carl. Thanks again, folks, for joining this webinar. We do appreciate the time. I'm a solutions architect, and I've been involved with contact centers for about over 18 years, primarily involved with very large multinational enterprises such as GE, Allstate, and so on. I'm currently a product evangelist for Noble Systems and a partner in crime with Carl, taking the message to you all today.
Thank you, Reddy. So today we want to review a few things within our session. One, we'll talk about industry trends, what's going on in the industry, what the growth rates are. Define hosted solutions. There's a number of definitions out there and conflicting terms, so we're going to try and clarify that a little bit. Do a high-level overview of the overall business benefits and where you're going to get a lift from a return on investment. Define communication as a service and what the Noble offering and our hosted solution provides. Review a little bit about our disaster recovery options, talk about interactive messaging, workforce management, and speech analytics that are all offered in the cloud. So what is hosted, and what are the industry trends associated with hosted offerings? As I attend different contact center events, there's significant interest in the hosted contact center as a service overall as an industry. I see a number of business drivers. I discuss a number of these drivers with my clients daily, how to compare and contrast, whether to look at premise-based versus non-premise-based. So what I did was to really kind of take a look at both the historical growth as well as the projected growth rates, and see how people are starting to invest in the hosted contact center industry. So what I did was I pulled this slide from Frost & Sullivan. Frost & Sullivan are one of the analysts that follow Noble Systems rather closely. So I pulled this slide out, and as you can see, over year to year, between 2009 and through 2016, we're seeing about a 14% annual growth rate associated with businesses investing in cloud-based contact center solutions. So as you can see, there's a number of business drivers driving that, which we'll review shortly. First, some terms. I attend a lot of seminars, a lot of industry events, and there's a number of terms that people are using to discuss communications as a service or contact center as a service. So you'll hear terms of on-demand, hosted, cloud-based, customer premise equipment as your traditional call centers, application service providers, as well as there's a new term coming up called a hybrid, which is a combination between premise-based equipment and services that are available in the cloud. And we've got some really nice offerings around that. So, as we look at typical contact centers today, they're categorized by geographic distribution of servers enabled by distributed both call centers as well as contact center organizations. Servers are deployed in multiple data centers. That's driven by purposes of redundancy, business continuity, etc. The current premise-based customers need to invest in, not only your telephony infrastructure, but all the ancillary servers associated with the IVR, text-to-speech, digital recording, workforce management. What Hosted Center Solutions, or CaaS, allows you to do is migrate these current deployment technologies into a cloud-based infrastructure. So, Reddy, as we do with these designs, how have you been categorizing this migration, and what have you been working on as we migrate some of our premise-based solutions to CaaS cloud services?
One of the things I've noticed, team, is that over the years, some of the very large enterprises have begun to move a lot of their premise-based equipment into their owned data centers. So they began centralizing, the equipment into traditionally what we call the data centers that were owned by them. So this cloud or communications as a service is not relatively new. It's been done, and it's been something that the enterprises have been doing for a little while, but they've predominantly done it on the private cloud. That is a cloud that's owned by them. So large enterprises such as GE and others have moved their equipment out of independent call centers and moved them into their own private data centers. The primary reasons that they've done this is that first, the infrastructure that's required to enable this has matured. Things like virtualization, certainly voice over IP, which is also SIP and voice over IP, has enabled these large enterprises to be able to do this. What is happening now is that that model, which only the very large enterprises could leverage in the past because of the infrastructure investments, is now available to everyone. Okay, so even if you are a small and medium-sized enterprise, let's say 100 to 500 agents, you can come to Noble Systems, and we would be able to centralize all of this for you in the cloud and enable you to have a very lightweight contact center, so that you can actually now kind of move these contact centers around, and then some of those business drivers, Carl is going to discuss later on. In addition to that, very high-speed bandwidth availability, MPLS networks, have proliferated, which further allows us to do this in a very cost-effective as well as perhaps in a very reliable way. When you move things into the cloud, one of the things you're always concerned about is how reliable is it, what are the latencies and things like that, and those have slowly gone away, and we've reached a stage of what I would consider past even early adoption, and the technology has become mainstream. So that's exactly what is happening out there, Carl. That's what I've noticed.
Very good. So really, as we take a look at the overall benefits migrating into there, at a couple of times in my career, I've actually opened and operated my own call centers. And as you develop two models, if it's a new business enterprise and it's a new business model, you've always got the expense traditionally of the large capital outlays associated with building out the contact center. So in order to build out and pre-build your infrastructure, I always was able to, or I needed to, project what my business growth was, project what my service level was, as well as pre-build that overall infrastructure. Well, once I had to do that, it's extremely cost prohibitive. Secondly, once the infrastructure was in place and the business model was expanding, what I found was as business grew, I also needed to project out what I needed to build out in order for those future business growth options. Very costly, very financial intensive. So the nice benefit about CaaS in today's environment is now I no longer need to have that pre-capital expense. Now I can move that into more of a predictable monthly payment and access the technology and grow that technology as my business needs are derived. So that's a huge benefit for both an established business as well as someone who's starting out in a new business model. The other piece that I found was interesting was in a premise-based environment, you always had to take a look at new releases. A typical manufacturer of call center equipment like Noble Systems we have a quarterly release cycle of new capabilities and sometimes major point releases that come out that have significant additional capabilities and functionalities. Well, that always provided a challenge where I needed to upgrade the equipment. There was always a delay in being able to project manage and project plan how to migrate, upgrade the infrastructure, regression test what I had, et cetera. But with CaaS offerings and cloud-based offerings, now the hosted provider, or Noble Systems, keeps all of the latest versions up to date on the servers. So the minute a new capability is available, it's introduced automatically. I don't have to manage the overhead of project planning, migration planning, etc. It's available to me immediately. So now my speed to business benefit is immediately available when I've got a new capability that I need to incorporate into my operations. I've got no support or data center requirements, which is great. It reduces my overall staff requirements, reduces my data center requirements, and allows me to expand without those needed expenses. The other piece, insurance is expensive. So if I take a look and if I've got a premise-based solution, I've got the ability to put a disaster recovery plan or a business continuity plan in place without the overall capital expense costs required in order to field different data centers, locate geographically distributed data centers. All of that benefit is now immediately available without that capability. Now, the other aspect is we all know that salesmen win new business. We all know that business models evolve and are successful. And as those business models evolve, or I've got temporary spikes in work, I need the ability to scale up and scale down my infrastructure in order to handle that. Well, with CaaS, we have the ability to be able to scale things up and scale things down to immediately meet those spikes in business requirements. The other aspect is, and which I found is extremely important, is my on-demand geographic distribution. We all know that different parts of the country have different label markets. Call center agents become available, not available, depending on where they are. The costs associated with them will vary from region to region. By having a hosted center, I've got the ability to immediately deploy into remote centers, allows me to exploit the different costs in the different label markets. I've got the ability to do an immediate work-at-home capability, and it's easier to support and adopt it. Now, what's important there is now this gives me the capability to create virtual, what's known as hub and spoke models. So a hub is you can open up a small office in a geographic location. You can field 15, 20, maybe up to 50 agent stations, put your training plans in place, bring agents into that, train them. After 4 to 6 weeks, you can then send them back and work at home. So this gives you an extremely flexible model that allows you to exploit the different geographic labor pools. Now, Noble has put together our enterprise offering, which is a best-in-breed, best-in-class, complete one-stop shop for your call center offering. We're one of the only companies in the market today that is bringing in all of the capabilities associated with an enterprise class offering that's been developed over the last 20 years, and we're really deploying it in our hosted environment just like our large Fortune 100 enterprise customers are doing, but making it available to you as a business and being able to utilize our data centers. So, Reddy, why don't you kind of go through what's included in our hosted offering?
Absolutely. Again, I think this is a major differentiator, from Noble Systems. I think our offering is exactly the same offering that if you purchased our premise solution. So what we put in the cloud is the same product It's not a watered-down, diluted product. It is exactly the identical product if you purchased it and put it on your premise, and that's very important. So here you can see all of the modules that are available on the cloud offering. We have a flagship predictive dialer that allows you to make outbound calls. We have a full ACD with its native blending capabilities and CTI blending capabilities, so we can take both inbound and outbound calls on the platform. We have a full-fledged IVR along with a designer tool that allows you to change these call flows. That's available as well. Interactive messaging, which is something that's one of the things that actually drove a rapid adoption of hosted technology has been the interactive messaging option, where the dialer actually places the outbound call, and if it's an answering machine, it automatically detects it and leaves a recorded message. It can even be a personalized message using text-to-speech, and if it's a human, it can offer them the option to press a digit and come back in as an inbound call, at which point it can be routed to the best agent that can serve that interaction. And it's not limited to voice. We are currently offering SMS, email, and other channels if those are appropriate. So those are available as well. And full recording along with the screen, so you can actually see what the agent is doing and also hear what they've said in the conversation. So that's available as well. We will store the recordings, in the cloud for you, so that you can actually have them downloaded to your workstations for listening. And you can also provide us with some storage in the cloud if that's something that's of interest, and we can move those recordings for the long haul or archive them for you, in our cloud. So that's available as well. Complete workflow scripting. This has always been a differentiator. Composer, the tool that we have, some of you who actually have the product already know what it does, but it allows you to script the entire agent workflow, bring in data from multiple data sources, not only from your back-end source systems, but practically any web service that's available on the net. It can consume those and then put that information at the fingertips of the agent. That's available as well. It's all delivered to you over the browser. And that's a big piece of what we provide in the cloud. Maestro, which is what allows you to essentially orchestrate all of the things in the contact center, that's available to you. And the views are extremely personalized, so different managers there can have their own views, so that it's tapping into their mental model of how they manage. So that's available as well as in the cloud. So it's the biggest thing that I wanted to get across is that it's not a watered-down product. There are a lot of vendors out there that have kind of basically taken the product and kind of given you a watered-down product in order to enable it to work on the cloud. We have not done that. We've taken our enterprise product, invested the appropriate amount of time to make sure that the full capabilities, the full range of capabilities are available to you in the cloud. So there is no compromise. And it's not an all-or-nothing proposition. It is something that you can have, and then Carl is going to talk to it next. You can have some part of your capacity on-premise, and have the rest of the capacity in the cloud. One of the great things, folks, about doing CaaS infrastructure in the cloud is that the infrastructure is extremely expensive, and you can't replicate that infrastructure in multiple places. It's a lot easier to do it in one place or one or two places like we've done, and then it becomes a shared service. So things like backups and generators and redundant servers, stacks and stacks of these servers are set up. All of them have a very, very, very high 5.9 type of reliability associated with them, and so that you are assured of a service that is always going to be available and instantly available, and that's something that we're doing in the cloud for you. And one of the things that we all know that has emerged over the last few years is increasing legislation and regulation, and this allows us to stay on top of it and make those investments very quickly and make those products available to you in the cloud, on demand and in time, so that you're always staying ahead of the regulators and can continue to do your work without being interrupted.
And one of the things that's important, Reddy, is because we maintain our own PCI DSS certifications, our SSAE 16 certifications, we go through that and we recertify those annually. So you've got the ability, let's say, in extending your interactive messaging and your IVR, you can come back, you can transfer calls from your premise-based solution into our hosted IVR solution or interactive messaging solution, allow you to actually take the payment without incurring the cost of a PCI DSS certification. So there's a lot of benefits associated with being able to kind of like interoperate with your premise-based solution and what we have offering in the cloud. And we'll kind of go over that a little bit as we get into what we call our extended capacity capabilities. Disaster recovery. Most of our customers, and I spend a lot of time in consulting engagements, putting together overall disaster recovery plans. And pretty much a disaster recovery plan allows you to put in place a mechanism that will recover your business in the event of a true national disaster. Disaster recovery planning is a project unto itself. So, we all know that things can happen to enter production in our contact center facilities. I mean, all you have to do is watch the news every night and see what's going on in the Midwest. I mean, there's a tornado reported this time of year. Every other day you see hurricanes and tropical storms coming up, up and down the East Coast. On the West Coast, this is a perfect time for fire. I lived in the West Coast, so there's a large number of unpredictable capabilities that occur, and we need to be able to have a disaster recovery plan and a disaster recovery solution, business continuity plans, business continuity solutions. If you look at a typical, 2 to 500 seat call center, in a small company, the ability to be able to invest in a separate geographic location, separate geographic infrastructure in order to pay for the insurance in the event of a disaster is cost prohibitive. So what we've done is we're able to create hybrid plans and customized disaster recovery plans for our customers. Ready, perhaps you want to expand upon, what we've done in a couple of places?
Absolutely. I think perhaps one of the greatest trends, that CaaS has unleashed is looking at the vendor to provide, certainly at least a part of the disaster recovery plan. Business continuity is one of those things that's extremely important in the post-911 world. We have to be prepared for that whole smoking hole scenario, if you will, and that's hard to do. When you have it requires a heavy investment, and the insurance cost can be extremely high, and that's one place where CaaS can play a role. The vendor has the expertise. The vendor has, Noble Systems has multiple data centers in which the product is and the technology is available. And in that scenario, we've seen a number of customers look at us and say, what if I can have some part of my capacity active all the time? It's a very small price to pay. It's a shared service, and we know that typically a disaster recovery event is a rare event. So things are priced appropriately. So you can get this insurance for a very, very small price. And that's something that I've seen a heavy uptake in the client base today, and more and more people are reaching out to us. The other one is interactive messaging. At the end of the day, if I cannot field my agents for some reason, I would like to be at least, or have only partial capacity available, perhaps they're at home. I would like to have some messaging capability where you can inform the people about the disaster and when the service is going to be back up, in full production. But during that time, at least have those opt-ins, or my most important customers be driven to these at-home agents that can work from home and service those customers and explain to them, how things are being repaired and that we're going to be online very soon. So these are some of the things that customers are doing. And again, it's not an all or nothing proposition here. We're suggesting that you have some premise capacity, that's your static capacity, and then for those periods where disasters occur or for short periods of time, the CaaS solution can be an alternative.
And I've worked on a number of solutions with our customers. So there's a number of our customers that are in third-party collections, they're business process outsourcers, that run across RFP requirements that require a disaster recovery capability. Well, with our disaster recovery solutions, we can work with you in those areas. You can now check those boxes off, have that disaster recovery solution in place so you can bid and win that new work without the overall infrastructure cost associated with it. So from a business development perspective, this is a godsend, I've found, for a number of the different clients that I've been working with. Let's talk a little bit about elastic capacity. We all know as we develop business plans, and I mentioned it previously a little bit, that you run in and you've won new business, or you are bidding new business, or you need a capability, for example, to add PCI DSS compliance. But you also have requirements that are data requirements. In other words, you cannot have your data go off-premise, and you can't shift that data off-premise. So Noble's introduced some capabilities that allow you to have your premise-based equipment, have your premise-based enterprise applications and infrastructure in place, in control in your data centers, but allow you to tap into the telephony infrastructure, the messaging infrastructure, the IVR infrastructure that's available in our hosted offering to truly be able to create a hybrid environment. This is somewhat unique in the overall in the industry today. And Reddy, perhaps you can expand on some of the specific capabilities we can provide in this elastic capacity environment?
Absolutely. One of the most important things to understand, a number of you may even today have, other vendors providing this interactive messaging capability. One of the things that you have to understand is having the same vendor provide that capability, gives you a lot more options. You can actually very quickly move something that's on the premise onto the cloud. So if any new campaigns were developed, on the premise, those can be moved and worked in the cloud. We call it the easy button. You can, press one button and move those campaigns, which you will not have the capability to do if you are with two different vendors. So one of the things, if you're doing today some work with elastic capacity with a third vendor, you need to review that and see if that's something that you can bring back on, on the Noble platform if you're currently using that. So that I think is a big advantage. One of the greatest advantages, of course, is historically it's always been extremely difficult to build capacity on the telephony side of things. Okay, these phone lines that are required to be added to do heavy-duty interactive messaging has always been very expensive, and both on the premise and on the carrier side, and that's something that gets eliminated. Now that becomes the hosted vendor's problem, that becomes Noble's problem, and that we've already taken care of. So it's very instant on. That's another big advantage. And at-home agents is always been an initiative from the top, but a lot of enterprises have had huge issues in being able to support that initiative, largely because of their inability to feel the technology. The technology is complex. There is a lot of quality of service management and so on that has to be done in order to ensure that the quality of the voice call to the agent is good. We have done all of that work. We've got hundreds of agents across the globe doing this stuff, if not thousands. So that's something, again, you don't have to go through the pain. You can outsource it to us. You can have this capacity in the cloud and have your static capacity, which could be 50, 60, 70% of the capacity that you need on a daily basis on the premise. So that's another huge advantage that elastic capacity offers. And the greatest advantage of elastic capacity is what Carl laid out earlier, which is that you can scale down when those seasonal requirements require that you not use all of that capacity. You can scale it down. We will give you a very flexible environment to operate in, and the pricing takes care of all of that stuff so that you can actually drive higher margins.
The one thing that I've found, because again in the business consulting practice, I spend a lot of time on business analytics. And with business analytics, it requires to have all of your data on the Noble host and for those customers that are Noble customers, we have a very open database that allows you to do extract, transform, and loads both into and external to our database. A lot of our customers then extract that data into their own data marts and data warehouses. So, and then combine those into business analytics reports. So, but they have a requirement, because they're large financial institutions, that that data needs to be resident on their premises. So I think what's really important is our ability to allow you to have your premise-based equipment, have all of your data maintained behind your own firewalls, but with the elastic capacity, it gives us the ability to flip up telephony infrastructure, to flip up messaging infrastructure, all providing the capabilities, to extend your business model, but while maintaining all of the data on your own host solutions. So I think that's extremely important.
Additionally, one of the things, Carl, is also that the same tools are now being used to manage both your elastic capacity and the premise capacity. That's huge.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. So you've got single training. Once your teams have already been trained and certified in the Maestro platform and the Maestro premise-based solution, there is no retraining to migrate into using hosted capabilities. So that's a very good point. Now, the other piece that is evolving and what we're introducing on the market is what we call workforce optimization. So workforce optimization has really two components. We've got workforce management as well as speech analytics. And Reddy, if you'd like to kind of review a little bit about our workforce management capabilities with our new ShiftTrack Plus product.
Absolutely. Again, one of the things, we've seen rapid adoption is in the whole workforce optimization arena. Once you have a contact center and you've got the basic nuts and bolts taken care of and production is underway, and as you grow, one of the first challenges you have is in ensuring that, that the workforce, that the folks, that the agents show up, and that they are in fact the right agents at the right time to satisfy the interaction. And one of the tools that has seen a huge uptake is again the ShiftTrack Plus product on the hosted WFM side, and this is a safe way to begin introducing workforce management into the contact center. All of the features, it's a full-fledged product. It's a Tier 1 product that's available in the cloud, and often this is licensed based on the number of rostered agents that you have. So it is extremely it lends itself very heavily to be deployed in the cloud. All they need, both the managers and the agents, is a browser. So that's a good part about this technology, and it allows you to do all of the things to get more out of your workforce, which is probably the most expensive resource that you have in the contact center. Okay, and go.
Yeah, so one of the things I spend a lot of time on is it's really hard to predict overall service levels and service level availability for your agents. Specifically, Noble Systems provides a best-in-breed, not only outbound capability, but a blended call center capability. And if you look at that blending capability, in order to determine the right amount of agents to handle the right amount of service levels, to handle your outbound campaign management is not a trivial task. If as I go through, I do a lot of assessments, and I see in a typical, 200 to 300 person call center, I see almost 1 to perhaps 3 full-time equivalent hours just to calculate and manage the agent staff. Being able to define shifts, being able to staff those shifts, even just the approval of time off. I'm seeing a lot of, specifically we talked about work-at-home agents. And if I look at work-at-home agents, there's a lot of trend in the industry today to go towards part-time shifts. think about those folks that have call centers in college towns, and you've got part-time college students that are working in your organization, or you've got part-time work-at-home mothers or work-at-home resources that you need to manage. With workforce management, it allows us to schedule staffs to meet our service levels, to meet our outbound campaigns, allow the agents to self-manage themselves. In other words, they can bid on shifts, they can ask for time off, they can select shifts. It gives the staff and the supervisors the ability to actually project number of staffs via simulation models that can be that will be required to hit your productivity and production. By moving this and now offering this in a hosted solution, and this hosted solution can be utilized with both the Noble equipment as well as third-party products. This can actually free up 2, 3, up to 5 full-time equivalent resources, remove the burden from that so they can start focusing on what's going to make you successful in the call center by managing the agents, mentoring the agents, tracking the agents. So I found that this is a real boon to giving us some uplift. Now, the other piece is, which is really exciting, is speech analytics. Okay, what speech analytics provides, we all know that we've got, most call centers record 100% of their calls. They record 100% of their calls on their premise-based equipment, and when it really comes down to analyzing the quality of those calls, out of that 100% of calls, less than 1% are actually pulled, listened to, scored, to assure quality, regulatory compliance, etc. Speech analytics is a class of technology that allows you to do data mining on your audio. So in other words, I can process 100% of the audio in my calls. I can create specific queries that allow me to analyze those recordings for best practices, adherence to regulations, adherence to training. I can analyze what is said, what is not said, and then be able to process that and develop reports that show me how my agents are doing. All of this is done in what's known as a phonetic-based analysis that allows us to literally break a call down, analyze it based on phonetic representation. A phoneme is the smallest level of speech. Determine whether it's meeting my patterns or not meeting my patterns, and then generate reports, which gives me a true productivity lift. So, for example, in a collections organization, if I get a phone call that comes in, and 9 times out of 10 I've done analysis in my practices that show even in well-run collection centers, the collectors were not asking for full payment 70% of the time. This pinpointed it. We were able to correct that. Now the collectors are asking for that full payment, and we identified who those collectors were. They now ask for the full payment, which gave them an uplift in productivity and capacity. Now we're at the Q&A section. Now, I failed to mention prior to this, if everyone looks at their webinar, there's a Q&A tab. If you click on that Q&A tab, you can ask some questions associated with, some of the things that we've presented. So we've got a couple of questions here, but if anybody has additional questions, please access that Q&A area, ask the particular question, and Rennie and I will attempt to answer it. So let me see what we have here. So I've got a question here ready. Do you have multiple contact channels? Do you want to handle that one?
Absolutely. Yes, the short answer is yes. Today, in this day and age, there's not a contact center that's just dealing in voice. Even though voice continues to be the predominant channel, and a preferred channel of communication for most customers. Email, SMS, internationally particularly, has really taken off, and all of those channels are currently supported by Noble Systems. And we have hundreds of customers today that are using all those channels, to service their customers.
Okay. So let me see what we've got other here. So, this is a great question. Do we have the ability to change the caller ID to match local NPA NXXs within our solution?
And again, the answer is yes, and that's one of the chief benefits of perhaps using cloud-based technology to perform contact center stuff. What we have done is that we've implemented the ability for every call, literally every call that you make, to have a different caller ID to be sent along with it. In certain situations, that's extremely useful, particularly in collections where people are trying to actively evade us. It's always good to try and rotate them, and perhaps match it to the local NPNXX, which is the first 6 digits of the phone number. And if you can match that, the odds of somebody picking up the phone improves significantly, and we can achieve higher list penetration that way. And so in collections particularly, it's useful. But even otherwise, if you're hoping to have somebody pick up the phone for whatever reason, even if you're doing fundraising and other applications, it would be good to perhaps change that every so often, certainly by campaign, and certainly during the course of the day. Certainly have something that's in the morning, and there's a different one in the afternoon, and then yet another one in the evening. And that's something that the product does, both on the premise side as well, and also does it on the cloud.
What I've done, Reddy, in this particular area, and this is a great question, is I've set up interactive messaging scenarios, primarily for appointment verifications for local doctor's offices. So, again, in a centralized call center, they handle the primary customer service mechanism. But we're able to actually put together interactive messaging that either does SMS messaging out to the cloud that can generate a phone call, or phone call appointment verification. So it will transmit the caller ID of the local office. In this case, it's the local Banfield PetSmart locations. Call the customer, ask them if we're going to be able to meet an appointment. It's displaying the local caller ID. So if I'm leaving an answering machine message, or if I'm having someone actually pick up at the end, the actual patient pick up, then they literally are connected directly back to that local office. So that's another scenario where I find that local NPA NXX is extremely beneficial.
Absolutely. And in a very similar way, Carl, in a franchise situation, in Allstate, it's got a lot of agents out there. They would prefer to have perhaps the agent's phone number be deployed when a certain area is called, their preferred partner in that region. And if they were to opt in, then send the call perhaps to the local agent first. And if they're unable to answer for some reason, then bring it back into the central call center. So again, there is a number of different ways that same idea can be deployed to drive some business benefit.
Sure. Okay, we've got a few more questions here. So we've got, what is the minimum number of agents per location you would host? For example, 10 sites with 5 agents each? That's a great question. That's the beauty about the hosted offering. It's really agent and site independent. It just really comes down to the type of bandwidth and pipes. And Reddy, maybe you want to talk a little bit about how we utilize MPLS in multiple sites, locations, as well as different capabilities. Let's say if I only have 5 agents, I can use VPN.
VPN, perhaps, yeah. Again, folks, I think one of the things that we will do as solution consultants is going to, understand your requirements and certainly give you what the minimum requirements would be. Now, typically what I've seen is that there's really no limitation. You can scale down to 1 agent. I mean, when you have work-at-home agents, literally all you have is a single agent working out of a location, perhaps their home, but if you have more agents, let's say you get up into the 10 to 20 agents, it might be worthwhile looking at some MPLS circuit, which offers the highest quality of voice that's possible in this day and age. And we will come and work with you on that. And if it's less than that number, let's say a 20-seat sort of a number, then perhaps a VPN, which is very easy to set up. And even there, the carriers now offer something called the business VPN. If they understand the application that you're doing, and you say, hey, I'm driving voice on this particular VPN, they can offer a higher grade of service at a very, very cost-effective price. That's really what you would want, and we would get them, get that all set up. And we have a number of customers that are doing all of these, various forms that I've just described. And we've got at the high end people that have deployed MPLS circuits, and we've got somebody in the middle that has done VPN, a business VPN, and some that have just done what we would consider, the simple VPN, which a lot of you, perhaps if you are customers of ours, are using for our support purposes. We already have that set up, and we leverage that, and we can get these agents up and running.
I've got another question, which kind of ties into this, is, how is the actual remote agent connected? Is it a web browser-based platform? How does VoiceOver, and how is the agent telephony nail-up implemented?
Sure. There are 2 ways. There are 2 chief mechanisms that we use to nail up that agent. Obviously, they would need a web browser-based PC, and that can also be a virtual desktop, which means that all they have is a thin terminal at their home with a USB headset plugged into it. That's all that's really needed to enable a home agent. In the first case, we can actually have, if they in fact had a landline, we could actually have them basically punch in their landline, and we would call them back at their landline, and the audio would be driven over the regular landline, and the data, the screen pop data, would come from the browser that they have on their desktop. Okay. In addition to this, oftentimes the internet capabilities have evolved enough in most parts of the country and around the world that we can actually now basically have a small VPN setup. They would have their VPN client that launches up, and once they're on this VPN, it's being driven on the internet, but it's a private network, it's secure, and both the voice and the data that's required to serve their screen pop would travel on the same pipe, and we would ensure that the quality is there to that they can serve, finish up their interaction.
The other deployment option I've seen for folks that are extremely security conscious is they're afraid of having the agent's desktop have access to their local peripherals, printers, things of that nature. So another option I've actually seen, folks, is even though we have a browser-based environment, could be 100% voice over IP, they're actually fielding those in remote desktops, because within a remote desktop you can lock all those ancillary services down, over VPN connections. So there's a number of different options, I think, that we can deploy there. Any other questions we have? No, at this time, that is all the questions. That concludes our webinar for today. Thank you all very much for attending. Please feel free to reach out to your sales team. You can also reach out directly to Reddy or myself, and we'd be glad to answer any more additional questions. Thank you all again, and have a great day.
This concludes today's Noble Hosted Solutions conference call. You may now disconnect.